Good day everyone. We are here to present our case study about our patient who underwent tonsillectomy. Short background why we chose this case is because both me and my partner got tonsillectomy for our scrub and circulating. That is why we just picked tonsillectomy as our case. For the demographic, our patient is female and her age is 30 years old and allow us to hide her identity as Miss R. Her final diagnosis is recurrent tonsillitis, chronic hypertrophic tonsil grade 3 bilateral. The surgery that is performed to her is tonsillectomy bilateral. Before we get further, allow me first to discuss to you what is tonsillectomy. Basically, tonsillectomy is a surgical removal of the both palatine tonsils from the back of our throat. Usually it is done to treat recurrent tonsillitis for our case and enlarged tonsil causing breathing problems or complications such as infection. What happened here is that during the procedure or before the procedure start rather, the patient is put under the general anesthesia and then the mouth is kept opened with the retractor and the tonsils are carefully removed by either cutting or cauterization. In this case, the bleeding is controlled and the wound is left to heal naturally without stitches. Most of the patient can go home after the procedure. For this procedure, we would put our patient in a position of supine position with neck extended. What is our nursing responsibility for this? Of course, we would like to ensure that our patient is really in proper place, which is rose position, supine with neck extended using a shoulder rule. Also, we protect for the pressure point so that we would avoid the skin breakdown because of the prolonged position, and we confirm the mouth gag is secure but not causing any injury, and we also maintain airway patency during and after the procedure, and we are also vigilant to watch out for any airway obstruction. We also monitor for signs of bleeding as this is the most serious post-operative complication, and we encourage adequate fluid intake, but it should be cool and not irritating like citrus, and we provide comfort measure such as the cold fluids and pain relief strategy. The type of incision here is mucosal and its site is along the junction of each tonsil and the anterior tonsillar inside the mouth. Here in tonsillectomy, we don't do skin preparation externally, only cavity cleansing which should be raised and sanctioned clearly. Every secretion or antiseptic here is povidone iodine mouthwash and chlorhexidine gluconate. So our type of anesthesia is general anesthesia with endotracheal intubation. Our main agent here is propofol, which helps to maintain unconsciousness during the operation.
Nursing responsibility for the patient who received general anesthesia. Before the start of the procedure, the patients are still conscious. We ensure if they really complied with the NPO, which is 6 to 8 hours, and we prepare and assist with the management of equipment, ensuring that all of it are functioning well, also ensuring that the suction and the emergency airway devices are readily available, and also we put the patient into supine position with head slightly extended and securing the placement of the endotracheal tube.
During and after the procedure, we still continuously monitor for the vital signs, securing the post-operative recovery by regularly monitoring the airway patency, the pain level, the breathing pattern, and also we watch out for complications such as bleeding or the respiratory distress. We also would want to take note if the patient is frequently swallowing because that would indicate that there might be a bleeding that is happening. For types of instrument used, we have the regular and the special. For regular, we have the mouth gag to keep the mouth open. This is used specifically for oral cavity or the tonsillar area. We also have the tonsil forceps to hold the tonsil, so it is used in tonsillar tissue, and tonsil scissors to cut out the tonsils and dissect from the bed. So also it is used in the tonsillar tissue. We also used here suction tip to remove the blood and secretion for clear visualization. It is used in the oral cavity and the pharynx. And then the hemostat to clamp the bleeding vessels. It is used to clamp the blood vessels in the tonsillar bed, and then the needle holder to hold the needles while suturing, and it is used in the tonsillar bed also, and then the sponge forceps to hold the gauze for swabbing, so it is used in the oral cavity. For our special instrument, we only have two: the tonsil snare, which is used to excise the tonsil at its base, minimizing the bleeding, and it is used specifically for tonsillar tissues. And then the trouser mouth gag. So its usage is to maintain the mouth open under the general anesthesia. So same as the tissues involved from regular instrument, it is used in oral cavity and the oropharynx. Now let us proceed to immediate post-operative nursing care. So our first problem is post-operative hemorrhage. So our post-op care here is to inspect the mouth and the surgical site for bleeding regularly, ensuring for early detection of hemorrhage as it reduces morbidity. And also we continuously monitor for the vital signs, especially the blood pressure and the pulse, for it's an indicatory for hypovolemia. And also we would like to provide a calm environment to reduce the agitation, because the lesser the stress, the less the risk of having a bleeding. And also we would like to instruct the patient to avoid coughing, throat clearing, and nose bleeding to prevent the mechanical disruption of glands. And if there's a bleeding, we would tell our patient to notify the surgical team so that a timely interventions would be given and further complication will be prevented. For our second problem, we have the risk of dehydration. So here we encourage the frequent oral intake starting with the clear cold fluids, because hydration supports healing. And after encouraging increase in fluid intake, we monitor for the intake and output carefully, because our records will actually tell us if there is an early dehydration. We also observe for dry mucous membrane or decrease in urine, because decrease in urine and dry mucus is a clinical sign for dehydration. We also would like to assist our patient in fluid intake, because some of our patients may be reluctant because of pain. So we would like them to know the importance of hydration in post-operative care, because when the client, the family knows the importance of hydration, they will ensures, or they will do some extent of effort to be hydrated, so that will put at ease that our patient is continuing hydration at home. For our third problem, we have acute pain and discomfort. So in here, we regularly assess for pain using pain scale and analgesic if prescribed. So administering analgesic would be best before meals, and after it, we would want to provide oral care. And also, if it is allowed by the physician, we would like to apply cold compress for more comfort, and offering quiet surrounding and distraction for children. And we also would like to educate our patient as well as the family about the expected pain course and how it is important that they communicate the pain level that the patient are feeling. And also in here we provide comfort measures not just to pharmacologically but also non-pharmacology, like enhancing comfort and minimizing reliance on medication. And also it is essential for our patient to reduce anxiety and encourage participation in care. Next is risk for airway obstruction, respiratory complications. So same here, we would like to assess for or monitor for the respiratory rate, the airway patency, the oxygen saturation, and also we would like to um, reposition our patient. If they are awake, we put them on an upright position, and if they are drowsy, we would like to put them at a side lying to maintain the airway patency. We also encourage gentle deep breathing if the patient can, and we observe for swelling or stridor and have emergency equipment available. And we also avoid oversedation with medication that depress respiratory drive. So the airway, swelling, the secretion, and the bleeding actually compromise the breathing after tonsillectomy. So that is why proper positioning, monitoring, and preparedness ensure the respiratory safety and rapid response if complication occur. For our last problem, we have the risk for constipation due to opioid use and immobility. In here, we encourage high fluid intake, and after the initial post-op period, our patient can gradually introduce a diet rich in fiber, and we should educate the family on the signs of constipations and importance of bowel monitoring. So, opioids and inactivity after surgery slows our GI motility, so that is why we have an increased risk for constipation. So early intervention here prevents discomfort, straining, and delayed recovery. So now we are in the last part of our case study report, which is the post-anesthesia care unit. So our first teaching would be to encourage our patient to have a frequent intake of clear, cool fluids like water, diluted juices, ice chip. However, we should also emphasize to them that they should avoid citrus because that would irritate their throat, which is fresh from the surgery. So we should um, also explain to them the purpose of hydration. It's to prevent dehydration and to promote healing and assist in clearing the secretions. And also, we should ensure to tell our patient to start their diet from liquid advancing to soft and to ensure that their foods are non-irritating, not spicy or acidic because it is also um, irritants to the throat. So soft diet actually prevents trauma to the surgical site and it reduces the bleeding risk. And also we should emphasize to them to avoid throat clearing, coughing, blowing of nose, or any strenuous activities so that we can prevent the dislodging surgical site clots which can cause hemorrhage. And then we would want our patient to gently brush their teeth so that they can protect their tonsillar fossa and that they can prevent infections. We should also emphasize that they should not gargle mouthwash unless it is prescribed. And then we would um, watch out for signs of persistent severe throat pain, fever, difficulty of breathing, so that we could provide timely interventions, reduce morbidity, and we can easily recognize if there's complications. We should also advocate to our client to attend schedule follow-up appointments so that we can monitor the healing and address the complication early. Here are the reference for our content so you can check it out for confirmation, clarification, and for additional knowledge. So thank you very much. Thank you so much for listening in our short discussion. We hope that you have learned something from this discussion and may you have a good day.